Welcome to the Chase and Tells Project podcast. I'm Jacob from the Chase and Tells Project. We have Hunter also from the Chase and Tells Project.
Yeah, Hunter Reese. We decided we were gonna kind of expand into all these different aspects of social media, and hopefully, more importantly, reach y'all on another level. You know, some people like to listen to podcasts during their day, and we're blessed to be able to do that for y'all. So, start them off, Jacob. What all they need to know about you, buddy?
I've hunted basically all of my life since I was 6, and I was going with my dad even before then. And the biggest reason that I love hunting is just for the tradition of it. And I feel like our future generations deserve a chance at having that tradition. And that's why I love to talk about hunting and anything to do with hunting, fishing, anything really to do with the great outdoors is like my go-to thing for the future. And I want to help like the National Wildlife Turkey Foundation. I want to help to make the future good enough for our youth to be able to carry on this passion and the tradition of hunting and what it takes, the persistence, the patience, the skills.
Absolutely, dude. And I got into hunting whenever I was just a little tyke. There's a couple of videos of me and Dad out there. And he basically formed me into an absolute diehard.
Absolutely. Burned into your soul.
It's who I am. Often when I talk to a lot of people and they're like, man, what do you want to do for your career? And I'm like, hunt, man. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I work a day job to support my
addiction.
Yeah, no joke. But no, I killed my first turkey whenever I was 5. Same with the deer, and I've been hitting hard ever since. So, I just want this to be more of a movement than just a movie, if that makes sense. I know there's a lot of other people that do this stuff, but I'm hoping that we're able to produce some content in a different aspect that you guys can feel on a personal level, not just something that you can watch through a video, almost like you feel like you're there. It's a blessing to even know the knowledge and the skills that we do and we're able to share with other people. So
absolutely.
Where do you want to start this off, buddy?
Well, we're 2 weeks from Arkansas's opener. We hit Alabama. Was it March 25th, 26th, and 27th?
We went up the 26th.
The 26th, that's what it was.
It was a Thursday night, and we hunted Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning.
Hunter got his first Alabama, a long beard.
That was insane.
The first morning, first hour.
Yeah. And then you guys will see in the video, but there's a lot behind the scenes that wasn't said or showed. And it was basically, when it happened, it was a panic. We drove 9 hours straight. We got there at about 4:30 in the morning. And we decided we were going to get a little bit of sleep. So we slept for probably about an hour. We got up and got ready. And there was some guys that had pulled up behind us and was getting out, trying to jump on, get their stuff and get in there before us. Which, I mean, yeah, it's public land. Kudos to you, you know what I mean? And so we went ahead and got our stuff and we got out of there before they did. Well, we're walking on these tracks and these dudes are just hightailing it right behind us. And they literally followed our trail, dipped off the side of the tracks.
Into the swamps.
Yeah, right where we were. And mind you, this was swamp. It was, you're having to walk the high points, and that's not anything that we're used to. So it was a completely different shock when we're walking on these tracks and it's getting daylight and both sides of us is just flooded timber. And we're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? But in that aspect, yeah, it was pretty scary, but we ended up walking around and there was a hen that pitched down and we were watching her. And I told Jacob, I said, hey man, there's a hen, there's a gobbler around somewhere. And he fully agreed. So we walked, I don't know, probably 100 more yards up and Al hooted and he did gobble up on ahead. Well, we were working this bird and it was about 30 minutes before we killed him. We heard a gunshot go off. And we made a play. It was a risky one. They'd hung up about 60 yards, and we cut into some thick stuff.
Privet.
Yeah.
Super thick privet.
And kind of trying to get around them. We thought they were cutting back to the left, going back. There's a finger that ran back in the woods. And we got where we thought we needed to be, and we called, and he gobbled like 10 yards to the left. And I ended up holding the gun up for like 7 or 8 minutes straight, just going from turkey to turkey. When I shot, there ended up being, it was one long beard and 13 jakes.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I shot, turkeys started flying everywhere, but we got almost back to the truck, and we were getting ready to call in our stuff, doing everything the right way. This is our first time hunting in Alabama. We wanted to make sure we did everything right. And no joke, we looked. I was about to throw the turkey in the back of my truck, and there was a breasted out gobbler. No tag, nothing. He'd pulled the beard, cut the legs off, and then he breasted it out, left the tail fan and the carcass in the back of my truck. And immediately I'm like, dude, this is not good. I mean, that's a federal bird. That's a felony, a federal offense. And I just wanted to make sure I called the game warden right away. I really wasn't worried about videoing that at that point. It was just kind of a freak out situation, but
exactly.
We do have some clips and stuff we're going to mash into this next weekend. It's a opener of youth turkey season, and we're taking 2 boys out hunting. So that's going to be a really, really fun time.
Absolutely.
But that's where you're going to be able to see some of that Alabama hunt. And then hopefully we can get these boys on some birds this weekend and then get ready for our opener on the 20th.
Absolutely. Birds have been firing off. It's been perfect weather besides it being super cold.
Mm-hmm.
We actually just got back maybe 10 minutes ago or so. We went, and Hunter came over this afternoon, and we shot the longbow and hung out for a little bit, making plans for future content and what we should try to make our next move on. And Hunter was like, man, I'd love to hear a turkey fire off. I was like, well, let's go. Well, I bet you money I know where some are. And so we cruised down on the county road over here beside my place, and there's always a ton of turkeys over here every year, and they don't get hunted ever, like hardly ever. And we drove over there, and it was about 8:30. I think it was 8:35 whenever, and we got out, and I told Hunter, I was like, man, I know these birds are going to be somewhere on this ridge, and here they always are. And he got out, and he hit him with the old houndstooth owl hooter.
Yeah, they call it the green hornet, dude. That thing is bad to the bone. It's about as realistic to an owl as you can get.
Absolutely. And we had about 7 fire off.
Yeah. You're like 120 yards away. About scared us half to death.
And we sat and listened to him till right about 9 o'clock, and they finally kind of started to slow down. We had to hear him one more time before we left, and they fired off that one last time, and all longbeards, wasn't a Jake gobble in there. And but that's what kind of keeps us going, keeping that mentality going. And we got to start early. This is the earliest I've ever started actually turkey hunting, which was down off in Alabama, which was a whole nother world for us. And
it's crazy because you get down there and you're not used to start until late April back home here.
Absolutely.
And you get down there and it don't even feel right. But it's about halfway through Mississippi. You're looking at all the trees, and when you get into Alabama, everything's already greened out and lush. And you get back home and you're like, man, are these trees ever going to bloom? But it's super green and stuff down there. But the terrain is, in some places, is just, I don't know, it's completely different. Where we were hunting down there in Alabama, it's just a flat swamp.
Exactly.
And we just, I don't know, at the beginning, I think we were both pretty scared because we didn't know how to tackle that. But we adjusted and we made it happen.
And we had the old Onyx wizard himself over here hunting. I was scouted for 2 weeks before we ever set foot on this land. And it was kind of a last minute thing for me to even kind of join in the trip. And I didn't know because Hunter mentioned it, and I didn't know if he wanted me to go. And that's how we kind of got into this whole ordeal, because I've had the Chase and Tells project for almost 2 years now, and I didn't know Hunter wanted to be big into the hunting industry, and I never took it anywhere because it was hard to film and do content and all that by yourself. And Hunter had mentioned that, this was his dream too, and it was also my dream as well to influence the future generations because I feel like, you know, if we're going to have a chance at hunting in the future, it's going to be through our generations of children, because they're going to be the next ones that are wanting to pursue this.
Yeah.
And because all the older people, they're either gone or they don't hunt no more. And so you're losing that tradition through them. And that's the reason why they taught us, is so we can carry that tradition further on. And so he was chasing a dream. I was chasing a dream. And so we decided to collide forces, and he's been a super help. And so we've been trying to pump out as much content as we can. And he had mentioned that he was going to Alabama, and I don't invite myself to anything. And then Hunter was like, well, you want to go with me? And so I had about a 2-week notice, and I was 100% game. And then after that, the Onyx scouting never stopped. Every day at work, every morning, every afternoon, multiple calls in between throughout the day, planning on what we should do. And I mean, to a T on where Hunter slapped the last Onyx pin at, on that piece of public land over there. And, was it Jackson County? I think it was
Jackson County.
Alabama.
We were 15 minutes from Tennessee and 15 minutes from Georgia,
and
just across the Tennessee River.
He put that pin out there, and I mean, if you look at his map, like to a T, that's where that gobbler was. And that gobbler fell pretty short, just about 60 yards or so from where that pin lied. But it was super cool to get to go down there, and it was a long drive, but man, we had a blast. We were talking content, what we should do, what our future goals are for the group, and all that good jazz. But
back on like starting, I want to mention this, because there's a lot of people that I talk to about this, and it's not you doing it because there's a lot of people that do it by yourself, and some people can manage that, but that's just something I've had a hard time with. I'd say the hardest part of creating something like that, if you cannot mentally have the means to do it yourself, because it is very, very difficult, and kudos to anybody that can do it on their own, is finding your partner. That is the hardest part of everything, is finding somebody as dedicated as you in this field. And it's basically, it's a mindset, and it's a heart thing. Like, if you want it bad enough, you'll go get it. And that's what I mean, everybody who's asked me, that's always been the hardest part of, man, I bet it's hard to get a turkey on film, this and that. Yeah, it is very hard. But I'd say the hardest part is finding somebody that wants to go get it as bad as you do.
Right. That diehardness is,
it's hard to come by, dude. And
it really is. Absolutely. For sure.
I'm very glad we got to do this together.
For sure. Absolutely.
And we've got, at least, other than Arkansas, we've got 2 more trips planned out of state. We're going to hit Missouri and Tennessee for sure.
Next year is where our big kickoff's going to be. We're going to put in for all the early permits in like Florida, Mississippi, basically anywhere we can try to start our turkey season as early as we can. We're going to go try to knock it out.
Nebraska for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Nebraska. I'm buying that the day.
January 12th.
I'll be waiting. As soon as that clock rolls, I promise you, I'll be cha-ching, cha-ching.
No joke.
But we have a lot. It's going to be a ton of future projects. We're going to hopefully here soon, we're going to try to host a fishing derby for the annual Chase and Tellus Project Fishing Derby, which we're going to try to help kids get out there more into the outdoors and all that. But that's all future projects. Mm-hmm. But
they still have a ton of planning to go into, and we're going to make sure we do this the right way, and we're going to do it where it can best benefit us, but also equally benefit the people who are in it.
Absolutely.
Because that's what we're about. It's more of the people we're influencing rather than us. We're just messengers,
Exactly.
I don't know. It feels right, dude.
It does. It feels so good. Let me tell you. I love chasing. That's how I got the name, was the Chase and Tellus Project. It's because you chase all species that you hunt, fish, or whatever has a tail. So you're always chasing a tail. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. And like I said, it has always been a dream of mine. I created it, and I just never really took it off. Like, I did it on my own, but it's hard to get the influence on your own. And so now we get to collide both equal-minded and equally as passionate people into a group. And so now we're going to do a lot of filming. We're going to do a lot of fishing content, hunting content. And then anything that Hunter hunts that I don't hunt, like out west hunts, I'm going to try to tag along with them and try to film that because I've never experienced any of that.
Yeah, we got an elk hunting trip in Utah, the end of August, early September, and that's going to be absolutely
Nuts.
insane. Yeah,
That's going to be absolutely radical. Because I've never experienced anything like a bull bugling at
and that's
20 yards.
dude, and I love whitetail hunting. I love any kind of other hunting, but I promise you, when it comes down to this month out of the year, and this is what it's made of for me.
In Arkansas, man, you only get 3 weeks, like 3 solid weeks, and if you know what I mean, if you don't get a ton of PTO time or anything like that, then you're really looking at 6 days.
Right.
So 6 days of the year, you're going to be able to try to tackle an Arkansas mountain longbeard, which we have a huge population of turkeys here in Arkansas. But man, unless you just happen to luck into one, the strategies that it takes to try to kill one of these longbeards on these mountains.
These are, and that's what I try to tell people. This is no Texas flatland, big. And I don't want nobody getting mad at me for saying this, but dumb turkey.
Yeah, exactly.
These turkeys out here, man, it's
because they got to fight to survive.
Right. And it goes only south from here, Alabama, dude. It's not easy at all. These Easterns, man, they're a different breed. It's if you're not hunting private land that hadn't been messed with, if you are an avid, public land hunter, obviously you're gonna go up against other competition, other people hunting. But
absolutely,
these turkeys have a different kind of mindset than quote unquote other birds.
Exactly. Early season's always the hardest here in Arkansas. So you got like the youth hunt, prime time. Always prime time. Not too many hens. Not like, you know what I mean? The separation is not fully there yet. The flocks is not super split up yet. And so a lot of times during the youth hunt, you can call up multiple birds in one sitting. Which, like, growing up as a kid, man, I never went a year without tagging out because there were so many turkeys, which, you grow up back in the day and you feel like there were so many more turkeys. But the reality is you were just hunting prime time. So there was always a chance at a gobbler. And the older you get, for me, the patience is what pays off the most. Like last year, I hunted all season long, had some super amazing encounters, had a bunch of run-ins with a bunch of guys that don't have the ethics to want to try to pursue it. Because, man, where I was hunting at, there's like 225,000 acres. And yeah, I have these guys parked behind me 6 days in a row. You know what I mean? Which is mind blowing,
Especially you got all this land
and you're parking behind me. And it wasn't even like it was like I was just camping a gate. It was like every gate I went and parked at, these guys was following me. You know what I mean? Which is because I've hunted it my whole life, so I know where they're roughly going to be at in the burn timber, which a lot of pine country. And so, I mean, there's like a bunch of strategies to try to, and you can just luck out sometimes. You can just luck out. It's just like a big deer. You can just sometimes luck out and they'll just fall right in your lap. But a lot of the time, it's a struggle bus because on these big ridges, a lot of the time you'll hear one and you'll be like, okay, he's way over there. Like I had this mistake happen to me a few years ago whenever I called to a bird in the middle of the rain, midday, and he was firing off on his own. And I was like, I'm going to slip down in this canyon and I'm going to pop back up on this other hill where I think he's at. And what he was doing is he's sitting in a strut zone. And that's why he was sitting there gobbling, and he'd go quiet for about 5-10 minutes and he'd fire off again. And what happened is when I dropped down to that bottom, he was on the other ridge where I thought he was. And what he had done was he actually flew across. So like over here in these mountains, a lot of times you can get birds to fly across to you. And sometimes they won't. Sometimes you got to go to them because you got so much, you just never know with a turkey. There could be like an old barbed wire fence, an old thicket, something that you can't, any kind of structure you can't tell that he's on unless you just know exactly the lay of the land. And what had happened is when he pitched to me, he just caught me up quick. And by the time I sat down, he popped over the hill, flew off, had a giant paintbrush. And that one haunts me for the rest of my life, for sure.
And that's another thing. People underestimate how smart turkeys really are, especially around here. It kind of varies, land, private land, public land. But if you get on some public where there's turkeys, but they're constantly pressured every year, every one that survives it, I mean, it doesn't just forget.
No.
I mean, it's not a coincidence that, it could be a week before season and you're hearing these turkeys hammer off. I mean, just constant. And then you get there and, it's 50, down 50% of what you were hearing, like, and then you get discouraged. But you gotta know that you can't be like every other hunter. You hunt your own way, obviously, but you also have to keep in mind you're hunting a creature with a brain that has its own experiences.
And a majestic bird at that.
Right. And there could be a barbed wire fence and it could be down on both sides and there's only 50 yards of it up. But when that bird comes to it, he knows not to cross it.
Mm-hmm.
Because something bad could have happened when he crossed it before, And I don't know, man. There's a lot of people underestimate them.
I feel like each turkey is different too.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Every turkey has its own mindset, its own goal. And then like you can get some super aggressive turkeys, which usually come in gobbling their brains out. But usually like if you struggle to kill one on public, like say your first week, then you're going to have over 40 guys, at least 40 guys coming in and messing with that bird, trying to figure out how to kill him. And a lot of times patience is what kills him. Because he'll go quiet and he'll actually work his way to you because he knows where you're at. If he hears a hen fly down on a big ridge top, and he could just be focused on another hen that's with him, that roosted with him. As soon as he's done breeding her or strutting his stuff or anything like that, he's going to eventually work his way over there. That's why all the old guys, like all the old school guys back home, they would take a box call and they just hit a few licks on it, just boop, 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 and then they would set it down. You know what I mean? That was the logic. Is so that way and a lot of times, usually those birds are your biggest birds you'll kill. Because most of your time you got your wild out 2-year-olds come in, putting a show on, doing the Indian dance and everything. And a lot of times your bigger birds, your bigger hook birds, they're usually pretty quiet. They try to keep to themselves.
They'll gobble a handful of times and, you'll be like, man, I don't know what happened. Something bumped him. Something did this, something did that. And that's another key thing, and that's something I'd struggle with to this day, and it's hunting with patience.
Absolutely.
When you're sitting there and you know where a bird is, but he's not being as vocal as you want him to, you're liable to walk 500, 600, 700 yards over on the other ridge to try to strike another one up because he's not doing what you want him to do. And it all boils down at the end of the day. When he's on that limb in the morning, or he just pitches down, if he hears you, don't think he forgot that he heard you there. He might work off and he might go do his own thing for a little bit, but come 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, right before noon, 9 times out of 10, if nothing does spook him, that bird's going to make his way back to that ridge where he heard that hen up in the morning.
Exactly.
And that's... The sad part is because I know this, but I still don't.
It's hard to do.
It is.
It's a situation.
It's very hard to do because you're like, most of the time these past couple of years I've been struggling with time with hunting. So I've had to work a lot. It is just, man, this one's gobbling and this one's not. I feel like my chances are better if I'm going at a vocal bird.
Exactly.
Rather than just sticking it out, being patient, and knowing 9 times out of 10 what's going to eventually happen. It's just that hour's incoming when you're hearing the turkey over there, and it's the what if he doesn't show up, and this turkey over here that's been gobbling all morning could have been killed easily.
Right.
It's
an experience thing. I feel like time is of the essence. Mm-hmm. Time is what teaches you. It's a never ending clock, essentially. It's always going to teach you what you did and what you did wrong. And the best way to learn, is through an experience, whether it's a consequence, a good action, it's just, you just got to learn through that. It's like falling down and getting hurt. You're like, man, that hurt. I ain't going to try to fall down again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's just like a turkey. If he comes in, and sometimes setup is huge too. Like sometimes you can mess a setup without ever even realizing. And I think throwing your call is what causes a lot of issues. Like I'm bad about it too. Cause when I'm calling to a bird, whether it's on a mouth call, a slate box, you just got to think in your brain of like where you're throwing your call. So say like, cause to him, he can pinpoint you to like roughly the general area, but a lot of times he knows exactly which tree you're at because he lives out there all day, every day. So he knows where he's going, what his plan is. And the thing about a wild turkey is he doesn't have a clock. So he's never forced to do anything. So he's got all day to do it. Why would he force something that he doesn't have to if he knows through experience that, because in the wild, the hens always come to the gobblers. The gobblers never come. So as a hunter, you're breaking nature's barrier by being able to call to a turkey. And that's how you get him so close, is because you're forcing his basic, like his hormones, his attitude to want to come to you, to pursue you instead of the hen pursuing him. And so when you're calling to him, you're literally breaking nature's barrier. It's not that's not how nature works. And a lot of times you throw your call to say like a turkey, he comes up and he sees you and you're in a wide open spot, no decoys, none of that, nothing that can truly hide you. And he hangs up about 60 yards. You could take your call and either muffle it real quiet and maybe scratching the leaves or something to kind of give him a good idea where you're at. Or you can turn around if you can move. That's if you can move, and turn around and throw your call so it sounds like the hen's behind you. Or if you're hunting with a good hunting partner, who's maybe running a slate or a mouth call, and they know in a situation like that, say they're 20 yards behind you, and you can cut you guys, so you're like up on a hump essentially, and the guy that's behind you is hidden. You could tell him to just slightly walk away and call, and what it's going to do is it's going to draw that bird to want to come further instead of hanging up. Because a lot of the times, I mean, it happened to me last year with a double beard. I mean, a giant turkey over on some public. He came around a bend and I thought he was over with. He gobbled a bunch during the midday and he came around the bend and I didn't have no decoys or nothing. I just tucked myself off in the woods, just a little ways off the main road, because I figured he'd either strut up the middle of the road or he would come back around the wood line, because he would probably feel safer rather than coming up the middle of the road, because bobcats, predators, all that good jazz. And what happened was when he came around that bend, he looked straight down that logging road and he seen there was no hen and he couldn't figure out where I was at. And so what he did is he just strutted and he went right back to his strut zone. And I wind up leaving him because I had to go to work. And so that one was pretty upsetting. And I just never went back in there and chased him.
Something you just mentioned, and that's an easy thing to do if you have two people. And I've done it a bunch and it works. You can't, I mean, if it's broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
And that is, if you're hunting with a buddy, which in our scenario, filming wise, would be a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
But
not crawl away.
If you guys are out there just hunting, and you have a bird coming to you and he's hot and he seems like he's hung up, have your buddy or whoever's not on the gun, walk 20, 30, 40 yards behind you and call, and have him throw that call at a further distance away. And that could be that factor that brings that tom within shooting distance. Me and my dad, we had a crazy hunt last year. Big tom. And, he was kind of working this fence line and he hung up about 50 yards over the hump. And we were sitting together and I said, I'm going to walk down this hill back here. I'm going to scratch these leaves like I'm kind of walking away, and soft call down the hill. And sure enough, I mean, he come in within 2 minutes of me doing that, because he thought this hen that was, calling at him was, moving off in a different direction, and he was having to make that distance back up.
He had to make a split-second decision that wound up leading to him getting smacked in the mouth with some long-beard XR number 5s. But yeah, and there's a ton of strategies to kill turkeys or to harvest turkeys, more or less, not really kill them. That kind of takes away the ethics value of it. But because I mean, that's what you do. But there's so many ways. Like my dad is a pure slate caller, doesn't believe in mouth calls. It's either slate or a box. And he's killed some, giant turkeys, huge paintbrushes. And when I was a kid, that's what his strategy was. He would always put me like 30 yards in front of him, which kind of caused a few of our shipwrecks for sure. Cause I got one that comes off mind. It was 16 longbeards came in, and they came up to, the closest one was pecking at the back of my tree that I was sitting on, and I froze. and all that I could do was sit there and shake. And I was wearing a ghillie suit, so all the leaves on me were shaking because I froze. I didn't know I didn't have a clear shot, didn't come down to the plan like we had set up. My dad sat back 30 yards behind me watching this all go down. And I figured we set decoys out on the logging road, figured they'd come right up the logging road. But what they did is they actually hugged the edge of the cedar thicket, spitting and drumming. And they came up within maybe 5-10 yards of me. And I put my bead on them at one point, but I just didn't think I could shoot through the brush and wind up letting them come by me. And I just froze. And they all strutted right there in front of me, and I never killed a single one. I watched them all walk away. And my dad was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Man, I just locked up." Man, I was in shock.
I've had a few of those experiences, and me and Dad were together. I think I was 5 or 6, and I had a Mossberg, a 410 pump, and we were sitting up in a box blind, and we were deer hunting, obviously, but sitting there, and it was cold, but we had a little buddy heater going in there, and that was one of the only times it was almost like an out of body experience, and it sticks with me to this day. I had this buck, I think it was either 6 or 8 point, I can't really remember. He come like 25 yards from the blind, and I got on him, and my finger wouldn't work. I locked up, and I'm like, "Dad, my finger's not working." And he's like, What? And I'm like trying to use my middle finger, but I can't move my hand. And he ended up walking away, but he got to live another day. That was crazy though.
It's like a shock. You know what I mean? Having that many birds gobbling in your face, you can feel in your chest. It was sucking the breath from me.
Yeah, and that would have been my first buck too. I was so mad, dude, but I don't know, it locked me up, and I couldn't shoot it. But it stuck with me. It's a memory. It's a core memory for sure.
And it happens a lot. That adrenaline dump is insane. That's why bow hunting is my passion.
I was sitting there. I can remember, dude. It was just, like it happened yesterday. I was sitting there. I was on him, dude.
And you were freezing too.
And I know. And I was like, obviously adrenaline, I was shaking. Right. He's like, "Go ahead, shoot him. Shoot him. Shoot him. Shoot him." And I was like, "I can't." He's like, "What?" I said, "I can't." And my finger, it wouldn't work.
Right. That's funny because that's like a story. I took my nephew a few years ago, and it was his first deer hunt, and he was using a 20 gauge single shot. And he was a little bitty old guy. I think he just turned 6, and it was his first year being able to deer hunt. And his brother had given him so much crap the previous year because he had never killed a deer, and he had. And we were hunting over on some public over there back home, and it was a big ridge top, beautiful place. And we were walking through I was drinking coffee, and he had a little bitty cup of coffee. I probably shouldn't have been giving a 6-year-old coffee, but he begged me for it. And we were drinking coffee going through there, and I was telling him how much I don't want it to, like I told him, I was like, "Don't let this wound you up," and all this, giving him his own little grilling essentially. And because he was already wired. He's like me, he's got real bad ADHD and ADD. And anyhow, we popped up over this on the top of this big flat ridge, and I just seen tips of the horns coming through. And I was like, "Oh gosh," and I set my coffee cup down, and he's like, "What's going on?" I grabbed his coffee cup and set it down, and he got up right up below, like basically in my lap, essentially. And cause he's a little bitty old guy, you know what I mean? Shooting double buck through a 20 gauge. And I seen him coming around. I was like, "Don't worry about it." I was like, "Here, I'm going to show you exactly where he's going to pop out, get on the gun, and he's going to pop right out here." And as soon as the buck popped out, he had his hand on the hammer, and when he was squeezing the trigger so the gun wouldn't go off. And he's like, "The gun ain't going off. The gun ain't going off." And the buck's looking at us, and it was a 7 point. And I was like, "Kill him, Bubba. If you're going to kill him, you better kill him." And he's like, "The gun ain't going off. Gun ain't going off." And I was like, "What do you mean the gun ain't going off?" And I seen his hammer he had his thumb on the hammer while he's squeezing the trigger. So essentially he was trying to set the safety off, or setting the safety back on. And as soon as I pulled his thumb off that hammer, he said, "Boom." And when he shot, he wasn't holding the gun, and the whole hammer / front of the receiver smacked me right across the face. And this buck jumped up in the air. He shot him in the neck and in his front shoulder. And this buck jumped up in the air, came running at us, and crashed right there in front of us and was flopping. And I jumped up, and I couldn't see nothing because I busted my own nose with the receiver. And he's dying laughing. I'm dying laughing. And I was like, man, you better get your buck. You better get your buck. You know, when we got down there, and sure enough, he had got his first buck. And it was an awesome experience. And my nose still feels it to this day. But
how about we tell them about that black eye, that permanent black eye you got?
Oh, from squirrel hunting, man. That was I got a permanent. You'll see it in the video. I got a permanent black eye on my right eyelid. It always looks black now. And I got a super amazing squirrel dog. Her name's Charlie. And we were squirrel hunting with her, and I was with my cousins, and we were up there at the lake hunting. And I've shook nests thousands of times, or shook the tree to get a squirrel to run out of the nest. And the squirrel had ran up in this nest, and I was like, man, I'm just going to grab this grapevine and slap it against a tree and, you know, shake the squirrel out of this nest so we can get it for my dog. And I swatted it one time, and I swatted it the second time. And when that second time I had hit, there was a dead limb up there, and it was probably 14 inches long and about 6 inches in diameter, or maybe 5 inches or so, but it was a big old piece. And I swatted it the second time, and I just looked up. I had just looked up to see if the squirrel ran out. When I looked up, I seen a black object, and I turned my face to get away from it. And it was that stick had hit me like a baseball bat, straight up and down. And it busted all the blood vessels in my eye, made a perfect black ring around my eyelid. And so now I have a permanent black eye from it. Busted all the eyelid, all the blood vessels inside of my eye. But we got the squirrel. I bled a lot, but it was an experience for sure. And we wound up killing 3 more that day. We hunted, happened at 8:30, and I stayed until noon. But
man. But that was a headache.
It was. It caught me off guard. If I wouldn't have turned it, it hit me straight up on my nose, like front face hit. But I couldn't turn quick enough. You know what I mean? And it knocked me for a loop for sure.
I bet.
But it was a super fun experience. I mean, that's life. Stuff's gonna happen, and it wouldn't change my mindset for anything else. My cousin was like, "Man, you want to go home, or you want to go get stitches?" I was like, "Nah, let's keep hunting."
Let's keep hunting.
I was like, just hand me a paper towel. And so we kept hunting, and then wound up getting breakfast, and then I had to listen to people roast me for about 2 weeks straight, 3 weeks straight over the fact that I got a giant black eye.
Oh man!
But that's hunting, and that's the passion of it for sure. It's all about the experience for me.
Yeah, no joke. It's not memories to just share. It's like, I mean, it's not experiences to just share. It's the memories that you can keep with you along the way.
Exactly.
That means more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Carry it for a lifetime. That's what makes it so special.
No joke.
But yeah, so.
Well, I'm going to clarify. I was going to say for sure, but then I was going to say no shore. That probably sounded pretty bad on camera.
But yeah, one of the boys we're taking, he got his first Jake last year, his first turkey. And then the other boy has never killed a turkey. And so it's going to be a super fun experience. I think the other boys he's like my nephew, and I've known him my whole life. But I think he's going to be carrying a 20 gauge. And then the other one's going to be using my Stevens 301 410. Which are super mean on him with number 9 TSS. And hopefully everything goes really, really good. Do you got anything else you want to? Any more topics?
No, we'll probably go ahead and wrap this one up. And thank y'all for listening.
Absolutely.
We're going to try to put 2 of these out a week. And then after this weekend, it'll probably be after this weekend, it'll be the week after, probably midweek. I'm going to try to release that video and get it up for y'all to watch. But we're going to try to do 2 podcasts a week, kind of one at the beginning of the week and one at the end, and just give y'all content. We're going to be talking about a lot of different topics. So if you're listening and you want to know about a certain topic, just comment and let us know what you want to hear. If you need any advice, any crazy stories you got, send them our way. And
absolutely, we love to hear them.
Yeah, no joke. I know we both had a lot of crazy stuff
Oh,
happen.
absolutely.
So
I've had way too many.
it all comes down to the connection we can form with y'all and the influence we can have on the future. So we appreciate y'all for listening. And for now, this is the Chasing Tails project.
Absolutely.